All right.
All right, why don't we jump in, Gerard?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so my name is Angelo Otterbein. I'm Chief Innovation Officer here at Final Site. Really excited to take the time and look back on 2020. We picked that year in particular uh, for obvious reasons, but also a lot of great work came out of the year, and we needed some boundaries and to figure out which sites to focus on. So we have 9 lined up, and our hope is really to think about this in terms of best practices, some practical advice, takeaways, things that you can really use and apply to your own site. We hope you get something out of it. Gerard, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Gerard Gustafson. I've been at Final Site now for a little over 4 years. Director of Client Success for our public schools and charters. So it's been great to see our growth in this space. But one thing to think about today's presentation, more importantly, yes, we'll be looking at Final Site websites, both custom options and templated options. But I think everything we're trying to really share today and suggest and just bring up the trends we're seeing, I think this goes across all platforms. So whether you're a Final Site client or not, the goal here is for anyone to take away some helpful tips and tricks here. So
Tips and tricks. So before we jump
yes.
in, we do want to put a reminder. This is a free opportunity. We had a huge turnout at Final Site U. Maybe some of you were able to attend a week or two ago. This school PR day last year was a big success. Sign up if you can. There's all sorts of sessions and things related to managing your school site, promoting your district, and everything in between. So give it a read. So Gerard, we picked these sites in part because we wanted to get a good range of enrollment, geography, obviously size. Any general comments in terms of, and we'll go through these one by one, so don't feel like you have to write them down. And just as a matter of bookkeeping, or I guess housekeeping rather, we are recording this. There's a torrential rainstorm. If you hear the rain in the background of my audio, and questions, we'll keep an eye on the chat panel. Please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A as well. So maybe, Gerard, talk a little bit about some of the themes and trends that you've been hearing about in your conversations with districts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, the last 12 months it's an understatement to say it's been unique and especially challenging for everyone, specifically in communications, and more specifically when it came to your website. So, the number one bullet point here is the concept of a digital campus. So for those of you that were in distance learning for the vast majority of this period, and I know some of our clients are still in that, they're transitioning to in person. The website is your front door. So no longer are people visiting your brick and mortar locations. So the whole concept of your digital campus and maximizing those constituent hubs, whether it's for parents, students, staff members, obviously resources for your current families, such as the latest COVID dashboard information. Those are all things that we're seeing our clients implement and spending a lot of time trying to get those things very prominently hosted at the forefront above the fold of their website. I think, along with this, especially in the most recent 3 or 4 months, marketing through storytelling. Look, the challenge of enrollment, I think, is top of mind now more than ever. In some cases, folks have seen an increase in enrollment in their programs, and others have had sort of the opposite experience there. So while that first bullet point is really supporting your current families, making sure that you're still able to market to potential families, potential employees looking to find jobs within your district. I think this is really the second half of the importance of your website these days. Just as we know that the next few months here will be, I think a little bit questionable in terms of enrollment, what your fall enrollment could potentially look like. So you want to be doing that storytelling through your website as soon as you can. So testimonials, social media integration, maximizing your homepage panels and slideshows, and then obviously your news and calendars. And then lastly here, we just wanted to feature a few of those really sort of, I think, the most common pieces of websites these days. language translation, page pops for those, last minute notifications of weather delays or, impacts to the hybrid schedule, something like that. Obviously, again, embedded social media, and then everything ties back to accessibility. So I put flexibility as the key there, just because your website needs to, in one moment, do a great job of marketing and telling your story of who you are, but then at the same time, in the event of a global pandemic, you need to be able to link to that very important information and guidelines and things like that. So trying to set yourself up for success is the key.
Yeah, and I'd also say, as we transition to some of the sites, that list isn't necessarily new in 2020, but it's really the application of it that we're seeing, how the language translation gets implemented, how social media gets integrated, how the design, it creates this emotional experience and tells the story. So that's really, it's the, I think we're becoming much more, even more so now, much better or more sophisticated and discerning users. And so when we arrive at a site, we have a level of expectation that's much higher than it was a year ago. And so how to meet that and know what to work on as an administrator on your end is certainly part of the challenge. So let's start with Kansas City Public Schools. There is a lot to say about this site. It's one of my favorites of 2020. It's a big district, so I always start with the schools navigation and how do we get people around, or how do we get parents around, among the different schools. And I think this is a great treatment because it's simple with the selected school, but then it's organized within each area so that you can just tap through or click through and quickly get to the school that you want to. It's this sort of natural, I guess, these little intuitive panels of hiding information until someone wants it, that really creates a lot of opportunity to make, that first impression, to use the space for that first impression, whether it's a big video or big images. This is just a nice way to introduce news and social media without it taking over the homepage. And, in terms of the primary navigation, this is a little unorthodox, but the reason that it works is because, as I scroll down, that menu will appear at the top. So I'm scrolling down, and as I stop or scroll up, you'll see that I now still have access to it. So it's a pretty neat little device that also creates this nice frame for the whole homepage. But anyway, Gerard, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the schools drop down, especially districts this size and larger, that the drop down is nice, like you were saying, just to sort of organize. Okay, if I have multiple children, this is the one place I go to find each of their schools. The other thing too that you'll notice, not only with KCPS, but also the other districts that we're showcasing today, is they're maximizing the same layout on their district homepages and school homepages. And that helps with consistency as your families and their children are moving through the grades. They know where to go, and it's not like each time they hit a different homepage, they need to start all over again. So I think the familiarity there of the different layouts and things is always helpful. Another piece too, with this here is, as you're scrolling down, this is one of those websites that really does a great job of telling their story, yet also supporting current families. So they have a great quote here from their superintendent. They have engaging photos down here. I love how, it's not your typical sort of panel. It is, if you actually look at it, but the design elements and sort of the off-centered outlines versus the yellowish background, they sort of overlap to bring your eyes down the page more. And this is, and we'll talk about this a few more times, but the footer is just as important as your header and other elements of your website. I think it's just become one of those standard areas where you look for hours of operation, a contact us link, addresses, things like that. Many times I think they're linking to your required statements around non-discrimination and privacy policies, accessibility policies. So this district, that's a pretty sizable footer there, but they did a wonderful job of making sure that all the right things were in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting to me is, I've been in this business for a while, but a lot of my work has been with independent schools as Final Site early on was focused primarily on private schools. And so you see these calls to action of inquire, visit, give. A lot of those are sort of keywords that you would associate traditionally with independent schools, but it's been interesting over the last couple of years watching districts really transition to the role to implementing, real sort of marketing campaigns, and really thinking about their site in terms of how to tell that story, which is really to share and send a certain message. And so it's been neat seeing how those same strategies that have worked for tried and true strategies that have worked for private schools are also working for districts. And yeah, I love the sort of the big keywords, and I love the statement by the superintendent. Really great stuff. So let's turn our attention to Enumclaw.
Yes. In the meantime, there's a question here in the chat about accessibility, and it's asking if that site in particular meets accessibility standards. So when Final Site, and we can talk about accessibility all day long, but just to quickly touch on that, when Final Site builds websites, especially for our district clients, we pass this through a 90-point QA process to ensure the template itself is accessible. And then it's up to the clients to, add that content in an accessible fashion. Many of our clients use third-party accessibility software, like you'll see here with AudioEye, but I know that there's other providers out there. So the key, really, if you're launching a new website at any point in the near future here, is ensuring that that vendor that you're working with is setting you up for success with a template that's already meeting the WCAG 2.1 standards.
So here, I think this is as good as any as sort of the accessibility toolbar is definitely one very visible option to apply for that not only gives end users some tools, but also has ongoing remediation going on if the guardrails that are already in place, you may not feel are sufficient enough. But there are lots of solutions. But yeah, accessibility has been a hot topic for many years now. So Gerard, you want to talk about this?
I'd love to, yeah. So this is a newer Final Site client here, located up in the Pacific Northwest. I think right from the start at the top there, actually, this B-roll footage that they have of, sort of day in the life footage within the classroom, I think is always a great way to just quickly show people, what it's like to have a student and within the district. They did a great job of keeping their site navigation very simple. They have it down to 5 main, navigation dropdowns, which is always great. We have sort of your standard parents, students, and employees portal up in the top right-hand corner. Everything here, the header is very clean. It's easy to navigate. Another piece, if you scroll down just a little bit here, you'll see 6 buttons. And these type of panels, just in the past 2.5 months, have been requested at length. And I think, look, they're very sort of utility first in terms of getting those items like the dashboards and learning models, getting that information right there above the fold. But also, too, these are things that you'll always be able to take advantage of, no matter the time of year. Obviously, here, look at this, kindergarten registration. It's that time of year again. So making those calls to action very clear and prominent on your homepage is, I think, obviously is something, a key to any sort of website that's doing a great job of supporting your needs here.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned these buttons, because it's not like this list of things has been absent from sites in the past, but I think what's changed is how do you make these a little more, visually interesting, but also intuitive, and just how do you send the message in some respects that the district is paying attention to its site, and these kinds of treatments really make a difference.
Exactly. And look, the way that those icons are, it blends in with the branding on the whole site. It doesn't look like some clip art of a big stop sign, and like we saw with designs of the past. I think the district design for so many years looked like what I refer to as the coffee shop bulletin board, where it was all of these business cards and things put up there. Yes, this is important. This is important. Well, okay, that's an overwhelming layout. So here, something like this, it's very clear. You have your nice news panel with up-to-date news, your district calendar. And then I think typically what our clients are doing now are sharing, excuse me, some of the highlights here. And I saw this post here on the left-hand side earlier today. What a great feature to have right on your homepage.
Yeah.
Talk about, a great surprise there.
So there's a question I want to make sure we get to, which I think came up in the last go around, had to do with site speed and media and video, and I think that's definitely something that needs to be part of the conversation, whether you're starting getting into a redesign or just thinking about your own site. There are lots of tools out there to measure site speed. For us, at least, we think about the mobile experience differently than the desktop experience. So we're not going to serve a big video on, if there is a video on the homepage, to an iPhone.
Mhm.
We also, I think it's important to be sensitive to the demographic that you're serving and the level of high speed access, and that can drive decision making. We certainly have sites where we don't put full screen video. It might just be a single hero image that someone has to click through. And then lastly, I think for current families, their the homepage is often the just a stepping stone to somewhere else, and it's the somewhere else that you also want to make sure that you're focused on in terms of optimizing site speed. So that might be the digital campus landing page where all the resources are, which are mostly going to be icons and links and maybe less, big full video and images.
Absolutely. And, the sort of disadvantage with the Zoom link here is these videos look like they're glitching, but if you actually visit the website directly, it's nice and smooth. Yeah.
So Richfield, I think is a good one to have in this mix, just because it is so different. The use of primary colors, the vertical nav, they pick up on these curved lines. It's a nice kind of pseudo hamburger menu, I guess, in terms of it pulls out.
It's a new take, yes.
A new take, yeah. So you get your quick links, you've got your sub nav and primary nav, but it's all tucked into this little button over here. And then you've got, the core calls to action, but it really makes for, a fun site that's different. So there's lots of, interesting plays off of the shape that really work well.
Yeah, Richfield came to us and said, look, we want to push the envelope and we want to have a design that stands out. We have new branding that goes along with this. And if you compare this to, I think, many of the district sites out there now or of years in the past, this is a little uncomfortable for some people. And I totally get it, but it's clients like these that sort of push the way typical websites are laid out. And from there is where we see a lot of just unique applications. So Angela, you showed it before on that menu, that slide out menu there. We're seeing more and more clients move to something like this, where the average person any day, if they're interacting with the website, they're searching for something first and foremost. And so we're seeing the search boxes become more and more prominent within district websites, and especially those larger ones, just because of the sheer amount of information there is to navigate through. So if you have your, let's call it a find it fast slide out like this, you can also have, again, those very clear buttons and icons of, based on the time of year, popular links that people are searching for. It's all about making that experience easier for your users to find the things that they need.
Yeah. There's a question about how frequently are these districts changing their B-roll day in the life footage on the homepage. I'm not sure we have a stat on that, but what I would guide a district on is to say that the audience for that B-roll isn't necessarily the parent coming to the website every single day, because they're probably going to bookmark the school site, which also may have some video on it. So I would probably recommend trying to at least make some updates every year. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do a totally new video, but there's no reason you can't sort of edit what you have.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I tell the clients that we work with, and so does our deployment team, is, if you have a videographer that you hire for a period and they come back with, hours of footage, you can cut that up into, very short 30-second clips. And now you're able to use that throughout the year. I think most clients of ours are updating their photo slideshows or videos, I'd say every couple of months, maybe every 2 to 3 months, probably being the most sort of average timeline there. But you definitely don't want to have graduation footage from last year's seniors in January and those types of things. Right. So any of these designs, the ones that are very photo heavy, it's great, it's attractive, but also too, you have to think about, is that sustainable? Do I have the amount of video and photos that you can use to keep that design looking fresh?
And this is actually a kind of a nice segue in the sense that if you watch some of these videos, so actually some are videos and some are images that have a zoom effect, which is just a simple thing that's easy to implement. So it gives you the sense of motion, but it actually isn't a video. So you can accomplish a lot even by combining, short clips without having to have a 2-minute montage.
Exactly. And I think a lot of our clients too are flopping between photo slideshows for a little bit, then back to video, or even incorporating those in together into the same thing like this one. So really, there's plenty of ways to keep it fresh. You could also, throw in some stock photos here and there if you need to, but it's always nice to keep that fresh, especially for those families returning.
You'll see also, I just tapped on the English, in each of these sites, there's a slightly different combination of languages. And, that was one of the things that Gerard mentioned in the kind of overview slide, that translation isn't so much just having that Google dropdown that we've all seen, but also starting to do it in a way that's, makes more sense for who you're trying to serve. And also culling the list a little bit can make it just a better utility. But this design, it's a simple design, but it's got some nice treatments. This kind of ragged edge adds, kind of a flair to it. The icons are nice and very school friendly. You've got a good collection of news and calendar items, just sort of teaser stuff. But here's the parallax where now you suddenly have these illustrations, which is always a welcome addition to a site if you've got them. Nice overlay of just a little bit of content in terms of, in this case, hybrid learning. And then, what I like about this sort of panel is, if you notice, there isn't a lot on this page other than these 6 blocks. So it's not like there's this big navigation and there's all this other text. So what that does is it just allows the user to focus on what you want them to see. And so they're really targeting areas of the district that they think are important. And then, of course, if I scroll up or scroll down, I can get to more information. But it's nice that there's this there's a lot more white space, I'd say, in the sites that seem to be getting the best feedback. There's just acknowledging that we can only take so much in with each pass.
Right, exactly. And I think maximizing the purpose of each of these panels and the purpose of these different sections. Obviously, districts are going through strategic planning every few years. So make sure that has its own given area. And the storytelling panels that we saw before, each of those is nice because now it's one item, one topic that's calling for your visitor's attention versus, 3 to 4 things at a time.
So let's jump over to, it says, can you tell me what was written in this? There's a question. Can you tell me what was written in the search box?
I think it was Richfield that we were looking at. Mm-hmm.
What can we help you find at Richfield? Yeah, that's nice. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I've seen some clients play around with that verbiage, simple things like search here or what can we help you find or start looking for things here, something like that. Just another area to put a call to action. And
one thing behind the scenes, since we're talking about search, is there's, at least with Final Site, and it depends on who you're using, but there is functionality available to implement what are called synonyms, so that if someone searches for athletics, but all your content uses the word sports, you can kind of force feed the result set so that the right pages are still showing up. And so those that are really paying attention, just because search is widely used, if you're paying attention to it or paying a little bit of attention to it, you can start to make sure that the right kinds of stuff are showing up. For parents who may not be searching for the terms that are being crawled, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something to keep in mind here, especially if you have buttons like this at your disposal, right below the search or prominently focused on your homepage, looking at that search analytics and seeing what people are searching for. I'm sure at this, if you've been doing this for years, based on the time of year, what people are looking for, but it's a great way to sort of, bypass the search box and getting those maybe top 6 or 8 items right onto your website.
So Gerard and I picked this one because it really stretches the spectrum, I guess, of what makes a good site. And in our view, this is much more about content and news and updates, and you just get this kind of news site, news website or news portal feel that I think really works. And so you've got your featured news item, you've got list of news items, and it's very much just stories, and you can get to these different stories in different ways throughout the site. But as opposed to taking a more marketing centric approach with the video and the hero images and all of that, this is really about all the content that they're posting.
Yeah, this makes me think of a really well done virtual publication or a digital publication here. It's a very easy to navigate layout. You have the ability to pull in more news stories as you scroll down the page. Yet at the same time, right up top, you have a very clear layout to your main navigation, your utility navigation. And again, search, right? People want to search for stories that are interesting to them. So if it's possible within your system, within your news system, if you can tag and categorize certain stories by particular events or topics of events, things like that, that's going to keep users on the page visiting, exploring more news stories that are related to what they initially clicked on. I think it's just great to see. They did a really nice job of integrating their translate option too in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah.
And then they have a nice little weather widget as well, which I thought was nice. It's the first time I think I've seen that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great. I think compared to some of the other sites that we've shown so far that have had video and motion and things like that, Longview really wanted to focus on getting news and those announcement type things right in front of their users.
So this is a good example of what Gerard mentioned earlier, a page pop or an inline sort of notice. And in at least with Final Site, you can target either the homepage, the whole website, or certain pages. But what it really does is it forces the user to acknowledge what's in front of them and either just close it or don't show it again. But it does really work, and not just for emergency notices, but also, let's say you want to have it on your news page and you want people to sign up for something. It could have some nice utility there to get people to understand that they can subscribe to a newsletter or something along those lines. But in any case, Rockford Public Schools, this is just a lovely site. And, compared to all the sites we've seen so far, not a lot up here, not much in the way of words, but if you just want to navigate through, easy to navigate. And there was actually a question related to social media, and I thought this might be a good site to answer it. But like what we've seen in a couple of the earlier sites, good use of white space, very clear, big type, next steps, as we put these things in place, this sentence or this language, we want to guide users to what makes sense to do after they've read this. And so one of the nice things about having, just a little bit of text is, what we're trying to do is see, we don't know what the user is really looking for. So we just want to give them enough and let them decide sort of how they, where their journey is going to take them. But this 205 vibe, I don't know if anybody from this district is here, but I've used this as an example of really promoting a variety of channels where where the district in this case is creating different kinds of content, from their blog, podcast, videos, and the news. I just think the branding it in a way like this is a really interesting, nice idea, and I like this idea, this graphic of a quotation or something. And the site just keeps going on with this nice design, nice spot colors. Here we have kind of that social proof with really, compelling quotes from different people at the district. I don't know if we've seen a couple of infographics, but this one I think does a really nice job of varying size and text and numbers. So you get a nice kind of overview of what makes a district unique without a ton of information, and then a solid footer that's really organized and clean.
Yeah, the testimonials panel and I think infographic panels, things like that are design treatments that you can continuously update with new stats you're impressed with new testimonials, students, faculty and staff, alumni. So these are all those little things here and there that tell your story. And it's not, a big lift in terms of updating them, a couple times a year or something like that.
Yep. So let's move to Stafford. Let me refresh here.
Yeah. In the meantime, there's a question about are widgets like weather a free element to current Final Site users, or are they a custom design? That is the first time I've seen a weather widget like that on any of our designs. I'm sure there are, like anything, free options here, or other ones that you can sort of hard code and design in there. I think that would be best to talk to our support team or your technical department to see what the
Most of those these days, like chat would be a good example. There are a couple of sites, I think.
Yes.
Kansas has an inline chat, I believe, or one of them, and they're free, or you pay for that service that are fairly inexpensive, and then they just embed on the site, and some of them allow you to tailor it to the design, or so I would have, there's a lot of stuff like that out there that doesn't need to cost money.
Yeah, and I think embedding has become very popular and easy to do these days, so it should be easy to add.
So nice entry video. This is a good montage with if you time the length of each individual clip, you'll get a sense for how, if you're thinking about putting one together yourself, they're not long, and if you stitch 10, 15 together, you can really get a nice video that conveys a lot. But this design does a nice job of alternating. Here we go. Here's a little.
Yep, I was just going to say, yeah, there's another one.
Good bright colors. This is, I think, very nice, very well done, which is, really focusing on this message of discovering yourself. And then they have these programmatic emphasis, these programmatic emphases on different parts of the district that, matter. And so I think it's unique to have slightly different shapes, and, it just seems very intentional. This device, I think, has often will show up on a website, or somewhat often, but which is, what are the outcomes? What happens at the end in terms of college admissions? And, this is a nice way to share, where alumni are, where they've graduated, where they're off to. So that's a good way to celebrate that. And then here's a, very different way of testimonials and stories of the community.
Yeah, another feature, and when you opened up Stafford's site at the top there, that we're seeing and clients are talking a lot about these days, up in the header, are portals. And whether they're public facing or they're, there's a password protection there. And Stuart in the chat asked this, the intranet or portal function is something that's standard on most platforms, I think, at this point, especially Final Site. But this, again, in the last 12 months, there's been so much, communications noise and fatigue, that making something like this that's very easy for your parents, your students, your staff members to find, most often they're linked in the top right-hand corner in your header or somewhere in a utility nav there, giving those groups of constituents dedicated areas to, and telling them, hey, in this area, you should find, vacation time off submissions, or, access to pay stubs, things like that for your staff members, for parents, ways to sign up for communications, overemphasizing where those things are and what they do, is only to your benefit, and making them easy to find within your website design is even easier.
There was a question earlier about social media, and I was waiting for an example of different ways to execute integrating social media. So this is just one where the individual tweets are part of this, navigation, and there are a zillion ways to tie in, an Instagram feed or Facebook or Twitter. So it doesn't just have to be a rectangular box, although in this case it works pretty well. It could be masked with a circle. It could be just a staggered set of headlines from different posts. So 7 or 10 years ago, it was like an inline frame with a scroll bar, and it was very clunky, but it can really be seamlessly integrated at this point. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Gerard, there was a question about whether this was a custom design or a theme design? I'm not positive.
Yep, this is a custom design as well. And I think the reason that Stafford went in that direction is because they already had very clear branding guidelines and wanted to do, again, I keep using the same phrase, step out of the box, but do something a little bit more unique to them. And so this is one of our custom, sort of our mid-size custom design packages. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that stood out to me about Palo Alto's site, of course, is the logo, and they must know it because it's front and center, but it's just a really nice piece of art. And so I think if you've got that as part of your district, I would not only just include it as part of how you think about the header and stuff, but sometimes it really helps at least our designers tie into it, use it. Maybe it's the nature of the curve or some of the objects in the logo, but I think it plays out really well in this case. This site has lots of unique things going on. Just the photography, the blurred background, makes a big difference in terms of just kind of the visual impact. And that's not a hard setting. The newer iPhones do it, have a setting right built in. But if you've got just a little bit of technique in terms of taking pictures, you can make a good picture really great without a whole lot of extra effort. So they've got this overlay like some of the others we've seen, but it takes up the whole screen, so it's very convenient to see and access pretty much the whole site with just a click. But then as you scroll down, not complicated design, but there's some variation in terms of columns. There's nice treatments of links and text and type that all really work together. And this is another slightly different parallax view where the picture unveils, and then you get this flexible learning highlights some news stories, and then further down the animated by the numbers. So really all of this together is telling a nice story.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned before, Angela, about pictures, you can have, a very custom site, a templated site, the whole spectrum there. Photos are the make or break. And now, especially with the accessibility of iPhones and Androids and how high performance those cameras are, it's easier than ever before to take quality photos, obviously once you're back in person here. But I have even a client too that has a form that's linked in their footer that says, hey, if you have great photos that you'd like to share with the district, send them in. And it's another way of sort of gathering that content for, to help you and your communications teams or whoever's updating the website so that they have relevant content there. Palo Alto in particular, though, I think they've done a great job of pulling in very clear, vivid imagery, and then, almost, the best sort of minimal approach when it comes to board education, agendas, events, news, very easy to access. There's not a lot of color that's pulling your eyes in different directions. It's very clear and concise and easy as you're scrolling down the page to find exactly what it is you're looking for here, while also seeing some smiling faces in between.
But if you look at like this in particular, this Board of Education, there's a lot of utility in this page. Being able to go from agendas to events to news. It seems like there's not much, but there is, and I think, and then pulling in different pictures along the way. So I think that's all to say that there are ways to compress a bunch of information without it, overwhelming the user. And then, even up at the top here, we just have, the overlay, and then the logo, and then we're back to the homepage. So really nice, I think, treatment there. So then we're going to hop to our last site, and this is one of our themes, right, Gerard?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
So why don't you jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this actually goes well with the concept Angela was just touching on. We're seeing, this was sort of the approach for many years, is a site that doesn't scroll. And that was before mobile first. And there are still some clients and districts out there and schools that say this is the preferred route that we like to take. And this is a great example of taking what could be thought as, as an older approach to a website, but obviously making it modern. So on the right-hand side there, you have a great little scroll option to see some of your highlighted news and stories. You have great imagery here in the middle that you could use as a call to action. Here they have some beautiful sort of marketing-based photos of just what it's like a day in the life there. And up top, a very simplistic yet effective main navigation with drop downs. They did a great job. I think the use of their color palette, it's not too heavy and in one color or another. It's a great job of branding overall. But as we saw in the last design with Palo Alto, it was this, I see this evolution. It was no scrolling, then it was a lot of scrolling for a while where you would have 6 or sometimes even 8 panels on a site. Now we're sort of going back to fewer panels, but more utility there. So
Yeah.
having a panel that has 3 tabs within it. But this is a great job of districts that say, hey, we don't want our folks to scroll that much. We'd much rather everything be right there at their fingertips. Yet this is still mobile friendly and easy to access.
So we have, so Gerard and I took a little bit of time and just put a few notes for each website on this deck. We're happy to, or I'm sure this will be shared. And if at any point you would like to talk about your site or just go through it, it's always fun to do that. And don't forget about School PR Day. I hear those sessions are going to be awesome. And I appreciate everybody's patience getting started this afternoon, but glad we made it happen. And I think unless there are other questions, we'll wrap it up.
Let's see, it looks like we answered everything. If you have any last minute questions here, feel free to answer in the chat, or you can send Angelo and I emails. We're happy to consult and talk offline.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Gerard, and thanks everybody for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.